What would you do if you had $2 million in the bank, but only 4 months left to breathe? I'm 28 years old. I spent my entire 20s building a kingdom that I'll never get to rule. I'm here in my bedroom, a place I used to call my high-performance sanctuary, but now it just feels like a very expensive waiting room. The only sound in here is the steady rhythmic hiss of my oxygen concentrator. It is a constant reminder that my lungs are failing while my bank account is overflowing. I need to tell you this because I am the ghost of your future. If you're grinding right now, skipping sleep and ignoring your body, you are exactly where I was 2 years ago. I thought I was winning. In reality, I was just bankrupting my soul to buy a trophy I can't take with me. Back in 2024, my life was a series of 80-hour work weeks and 7 a.m. board meetings that I never missed. I lived for the hustle culture, wearing my permanent exhaustion like a badge of honor to show everyone how hard I worked. I remember looking at my 3 32-inch monitors. They're behind me right now, dark and useless, and feeling like I was finally conquering the world. I was convinced that life was a race where the person with the most zeros won. I thought my 20s were for building, and my 60s were for living. But cancer doesn't care about your LinkedIn top voice badge. It doesn't check your investment portfolio before it decides to move into your body and take over. In August 2024, my body sent me a very clear warning, but I was too busy to listen. I felt this sharp, stabbing pain in my side while I was at the gym, like a needle through my ribs. Instead of calling a doctor, I swallowed 4 extra-strength ibuprofen pills dry and adjusted my tie in the mirror. I had a merger meeting to lead. I didn't have time to be sick. That was the moment I chose a spreadsheet over my own survival. There is a Rolex sitting on my nightstand right now. I bought it to celebrate my first $1 million year, and I remember feeling so powerful when I first strapped it on. Now, I just stare at the second hand ticking away the little time I have left. It's the ultimate irony. I spent all my time earning the money to buy a device that tells me exactly how much time I no longer have. The watch is perfect, but my body is broken beyond repair. Does that sound like success to you? Or does it sound like a tragedy wrapped in $15,000 of gold? I used to look out my window at my neighbor Silas. He's 68 and spends every Saturday morning talking to his dog and pruning his rose bushes. I used to pity him because I thought he was small time and didn't understand what it meant to exit a company. Now I see him out there laughing with his granddaughter, and I realize he's the billionaire. Silas has a Tuesday afternoon to waste. I only have a countdown and this sterile hospital gown. Tell me something honestly in the comments. When was the last time you did something just because it made you feel alive, and not because it moved a needle on a chart? My business partner, Marcus, came by the house yesterday to check in on me. He was wearing a $3,000 silk suit, but his face looked gray, like he hadn't seen the sun or a full night's sleep since the fiscal year started. He stood by the window, nervously checking his Rolex every 30 seconds while explaining our new pivot strategy. He talked about efficiency and synergy as if those words could somehow patch my lungs. We used to call ourselves the Unstoppables back at the office. We had this unspoken culture where leaving before 9 p.m. was considered a sign of mental weakness. We'd order greasy takeout to our desks and brag about how many red-eye flights we could survive in a single month without collapsing. Marcus looked at my dark computer monitors and told me we were this close to a Forbes cover. He actually believed that the race has a finish line. I looked at his bloodshot eyes, hidden behind expensive glasses, and I realized something that chilled me. I used to be him. I was the one pushing the one more quarter narrative while my own cells were staging a coup. I was addicted to the prestige of being busy, convinced that every hour of sleep I skipped was an investment in a future I was unknowingly burning down. I was sacrificing my health for a phantom reward. Think back to August 2024. I was at the luxury gym we paid $500 a month for, trying to outlift my mounting stress.
Halfway through a heavy set, this sharp, white-hot blade of pain sliced through my side, nearly doubling me over.
It was so intense I had to grab the metal rack just to keep from falling. I didn't call a doctor. I just walked to the locker room, opened ibuprofen, and swallowed 4 without any water. I adjusted my tie in the mirror and headed straight to a 7 a.m. board meeting. I told myself I was just grinding, and that being a man meant ignoring the noise your body makes. But pain isn't noise, it's an invoice. I chose the spreadsheet over the scan, and I chose the hustle over survival, because I was too arrogant to listen to my own heartbeat. I thought I was winning, but I was just dying faster. For months, I muted every single alarm my body tried to set off. I was addicted to the sound of people calling me a young visionary and the next big thing. I was so busy building a kingdom that I completely forgot to make sure I would actually be there to sit on the throne. We treat our bodies like high-performance machines that don't need maintenance, but eventually, the debt comes due. The interest rate is your life. Marcus started pacing the room, his tie slightly crooked, and his hands shaking from too much caffeine. He told me the investors were asking about my sabbatical. Then he leaned in and said, "We can't stop now, man. We're first page of Forbes close, just one more quarter." He was talking about scalability, and I was just trying to remember what it felt like to take a deep, painless breath that didn't taste like copper. Is there a nagging pain you're too busy to check? Tell me in the comments. What are you ignoring right now because you think the work is more important? Trust me, the company will replace you in a week. They'll have a new visionary in your chair before your funeral is over. Is the grind worth trading your entire future for a title you can't take with you? Because right now, my title is just terminal. Then there was Elena. She was the one who actually tried to save me from myself, long before the doctors ever had to. She smelled like vanilla and espresso. She wore a small gold locket that I never once asked about. I was too busy looking at graphs to notice the small things that actually mattered in our lives. I remember one night in November 2024. It was 2 a.m. and I was in the kitchen, finishing a proposal on my laptop. Elena was there, standing by the counter, holding a cold plate of pasta she had made for our anniversary 3 hours earlier. She didn't scream or throw a fit. She looked at me with a profound, quiet sadness. She said, "I'm not competing with another woman, Julian. I'm competing with a spreadsheet, and I'm losing." I didn't even look up from the screen. I told her I was doing it for us. I told her that once we hit the next milestone, we'd finally have time to breathe. The end finally came on New Year's Eve 2025. There was a single, packed suitcase by the front door of our apartment. I was in my home office trying to wrap up a year-end report that I thought was mission critical. Elena stood in the doorway, her keys already sitting on the console table. She didn't even ask me to stop working this time. She just knew I wouldn't. She walked out, and I stayed. I stayed and I worked until 4 a.m. I actually felt a sense of accomplishment when I finally hit send on that PDF. I had chosen a digital file over a human being that night. That's the thing about the grind. It makes you believe that the people who love you are just another resource to be managed. You think they'll wait forever because your why is so important. But why doesn't keep a bed warm. It doesn't eat a cold dinner alone in the kitchen while you're chasing a ghost in a boardroom. Now that I'm here, the silence in this room is deafening. I have $2 million, but I'd give every cent of it just to smell that vanilla and espresso again. I'd trade my entire company for 10 minutes of that cold pasta if it meant she was sitting across from me. Success is a very hollow reward when there is nobody left to share it with. But the door is closed, and I'm the one who locked it from the inside. Tell me in the comments, who are you ignoring right now for a job that doesn't love you back? Don't wait until you're a ghost to realize what's actually real. It was March 2026 when the world finally stopped spinning for me. I remember the date perfectly because I had 3 major project deadlines that morning, and for the first time in my life, I didn't care about a single one of them. I was in a small white consultation room that smelled like floor wax and stale coffee. My laptop was in my bag, unopened. The hustle had finally caught up with me, and I was about to find out the true price. Dr. Aris was sitting across from me. He is a man who has seen 1,000 deaths, and he has this silver fountain pen clipped to his white coat that catches the light whenever he moves. He wasn't looking at the digital charts on his tablet this time. He was looking directly at me, and his eyes were full of a heavy, professional kindness that made my stomach drop. I realized then that he wasn't there to give me a prescription. He was there to give me a sentence. I tried to stay in control, the way I always did during high-stakes board meetings. I started asking about aggressive treatment options and recovery timelines, as if my health was just another project we could optimize with more resources. I told him we had the budget for whatever it took. I actually thought I could negotiate with my own cells. I was waiting for him to tell me I'd be back at my desk in a month, maybe 2, if we just worked hard enough. Dr. Aris just put the tablet down on the desk and sighed. It was the loudest sound I have ever heard in my life. He leaned forward and said, "Julian, your body sent you 100 invoices for the stress you were charging to it over the last few years. You ignored every single one of them. Now, it's debt collection time. We aren't talking about recovery anymore. We are talking about comfort." He spoke with a voice that sounded like a closing door. Everything went silent. The room felt like it was shrinking, and suddenly, the $2 million in my bank account felt like 2 million pieces of worthless paper. I had spent years buying status and prestige, and now I couldn't even buy a single tomorrow. I was a man who owned everything and had absolutely nothing left to hold on to. I realized that the exit strategy I'd been planning for my company was actually an exit strategy for my life. In that moment, all the zeros on my bank statement became invisible. I tried to think about my company, my growth projections, or that Forbes cover Marcus was always talking about. But none of it had any color. It was all gray. I realized that while I was busy being a young visionary, I was actually a complete idiot. I had been playing a game where the prize was a shiny gold trophy, but the entry fee was the only thing that actually mattered. My hands were shaking when I finally looked at them. I had spent my entire 20s sacrificing sleep, relationships, and my own health to build a kingdom. I thought I was being smart by front-loading the work so I could retire early. But you can't retire if you're dead. I had traded the next 40 years of my life for a 5-year burst of ego. I traded my future 60s for a flashy, exhausted 28. It was the worst deal of my career. Have you ever realized you were losing a game only after it was already over? Tell me in the comments, what are you trading your health for right now? Is it a promotion? A title? A car? Look at me and tell me if you think it's a fair trade. I can tell you exactly what it feels like to realize you're the richest man in the graveyard. It feels like the ultimate silent defeat. Don't let your story end in this room. I need to tell you about my neighbor, Silas. For 3 years, I watched him from my bedroom window while I was busy crushing it on Zoom calls. I used to look down at him and feel a strange kind of pity. I thought he was small time. He's 68, wears faded t-shirts, and spends every Saturday morning pruning his rose bushes. While I was pitching to investors, Silas was talking to his golden retriever. I'd be in here hyperventilating over a missed deadline, and I'd see him through the glass moving so slowly. He'd spend 20 minutes just watering a single patch of dirt. I was convinced that if you weren't scaling, you weren't actually existing. One morning, I went outside to grab a delivery and Silas was right there at the fence. I was checking my phone, my thumb blurring over emails, and he just smiled at me. He held up a pair of shears and said, "The roses don't grow faster just because you stare at your watch, son. They take the time they need." I just nodded and ran back inside. I didn't have time for metaphors. But yesterday, everything changed. I looked out that same window and I saw Silas again, but he wasn't alone. This time I didn't see a small-time retiree. I saw a giant. His granddaughter was there, trying to help him with an old green watering can. She ended up spraying him right in the chest instead of the plants. Silas didn't get angry. He didn't check a watch or look at a phone. He just threw his head back and laughed. A deep, honest sound that reached all the way up to my quiet room. He started chasing her around the garden with the hose, both of them soaked and screaming with joy. It was a Tuesday afternoon, a random, unproductive Tuesday that I would give millions to have. He was laughing. I was dying. He was building a memory while I was staring at a screen. He was drenched in water, and I was drenched in regret. In that moment, the hierarchy I had built in my head completely collapsed. I realized that Silas is the true billionaire. He has the one currency that actually matters. He has a Tuesday to waste. He has the health to feel the sun and the peace of mind to be present for a child. I have $2 million, but I am the most bankrupt man in this neighborhood. I spent my life trying to buy the world, only to realize I was selling the only thing that made me part of it. Tell me in the comments, what are you staring at your watch for right now? Is it really worth the time you're losing? I know what you're thinking right now. You have bills to pay, a family to protect, and a future you need to secure. I'm not here to tell you to quit your job and move to a cabin in the woods. I understand that planning for the future is a responsible thing to do. But there is a very thin, dangerous line where protection becomes a prison. I crossed that line years ago, and I didn't even notice when the walls started closing in on me. We tell ourselves that we are building a safety net, but we spend so much time weaving it that we never actually take a moment to lay down and rest. I thought I was being responsible by working 80 hours a week and skipping sleep. I thought I was providing for a future that I was simultaneously destroying with stress and neglect. You cannot provide for a family that you have already lost to a spreadsheet. Ambition is a beautiful thing until it starts eating you alive. If I could go back to that kitchen in 2024, I would have closed the laptop immediately. I would have eaten that cold pasta with Elena and asked her every detail about that gold locket she always wore. I would have gone to the doctor the very second I felt that stabbing pain at the gym, instead of swallowing pills to survive a board meeting. I would have spent every Saturday morning pruning roses with Silas instead of pivoting our strategy for investors who don't know my name. But I cannot go back. I am stuck here in this high-performance sanctuary with 3 dark monitors and a Rolex that only counts down the minutes I have left. It's funny how fast your perspective shifts when your lungs start trading oxygen for fluid. My quarterly goal has changed from hitting a revenue target to simply making it to next Tuesday. All those mission-critical emails I sent at 4 a.m. look like complete gibberish to me now that the lights are finally fading. Take a good look at those black screens behind me. They are silent now. All that data I killed myself for is completely worthless. My legacy isn't going to be a company or a bank balance. My legacy is this warning. Success at 28 is a total hallucination if it costs you the privilege of ever being 60. A quiet porch with a dog beats a loud boardroom with a title every single time. Don't trade your life for a shiny gold trophy. You need to understand that the company you are staying late for right now does not love you back. They will have a job posting for your position before your obituary is even printed. Your why doesn't matter if you aren't there to live it. Stop believing the lie that you have to suffer now to live later. Later is a gamble that I just lost. Don't bet your health on a future that isn't guaranteed to arrive for anyone, no matter the balance. I want you to do something specific before you close this video. Send this to one person, a parent, a sibling, or a friend you've been too busy for lately. Tell them you are coming over to see them. Then, go hug someone you love. Don't wait for a milestone or a promotion. Just go. Tell them they are more important to you than the grind. Turn off your computer, leave the office, and just be a human being for a while. My time is almost up. The hiss of this machine is the only sound left in my kingdom. I spent my life trying to buy the world, but I sold my breath to do it. I am the richest man in the graveyard, and it is the loneliest title I have ever held. You still have a choice. I don't. I'm out of time, but you aren't. Go live. Use your time. Use it.